the other documents that I passed out. So I'm going to try and read it in a way that it makes sense to me as I'm not a financial person, and I had to understand the picture before I could put it in writing. So I think I have it explainable. If not, let me get through it, and then if you can jot your questions down to ask after I'm done, because it might all make sense as I finish. Okay. So whereas Florida Statute 10.11.62.16 became law July 1, 2020, and whereas the statute directs the definition and use of a teacher salary increase allocation provided by the state, and whereas Brevard Public Schools' proportional share in 2020 was $11,366,243, of which 80% of that amount was statutorily designed to raise minimum base salary. And whereas in 2020, by using 80%, or $9,092,994, the minimum base salary for teachers in BPS was increased to $46,550. And whereas the allocation for Brevard Public Schools' proportional share in 2021 was originally determined to be the same $11,366,243, of which 80% was to be for maintaining and raising the minimum base salary, but in actuality was later corrected by the state. And whereas the $11,366,243 originally determined to be the amount of which 80% increased the minimum base salary to $46,800, and whereas the amount provided by the state to maintain salaries was later corrected by the state in an email dated February 8, 2022 to be $10,902,790, so for maintenance. And whereby the difference between the corrected allocation of $11,993,068 and $10,902,790 is $1,090,278, and is the amount to be used for growth. And whereas 80% of $1,090,278 is what must be used statutorily to raise minimum base salary in school year 22. Now therefore, the newly calculated minimum base salary for Brevard Public Schools for school year 22 is $47,000 and must be submitted in an approved plan to the state in order for funds to be released.
I'm sorry if I missed it. Why does it change from 11,366,243 to 11,993,068? Where does that 993,068 one come from?
The second year of teacher salary increase allocation, the state has indicated that a portion of the money is solely to maintain the amount that you raised in the first year, and anything different is to be used for growth.
Dr. Green, I don't think that answers the question.
I'm not done yet. I was laying the groundwork. Okay. So when we had the allocation of 11,993,068, we took, tell me if I'm not, if I say this incorrectly, we took 80% of that figure.
Right.
Instead of,
It sounds, but in the third line, it says that the original 2020 allocation was 11.366.
so again,
Yeah.
we thought that was the amount that was supposed to be used for the 80%.
Right.
And it wasn't. That was the amount that was supposed to be used. Hang on a second.
I just don't know where the discrepancy between, because it's 11,366 is mentioned twice, and then I just didn't know where we got 11,993. I just didn't know what constituted that difference in that number.
So when you take 80%, yeah, So we believed that the amount we were getting from the state was the 11,366,000, but we didn't. We got 11,993, where that figure is.
Okay, so that was the
That was
2020
the-
number though. That was back in 2020, the 11.9?
No, 11,366 was in 2020.
Okay. And then this is
We
the 2021.
assumed that we were getting that same 11,366, but in actuality, the amount was corrected by the state to be 11,993.
Gotcha. So it was actually like, it was more than we thought we were gonna get.
It was more, and then they identified an amount within that 11,993 that could only be used for maintenance.
Still at 80% though, right?
80%. Oh, yes, correct, 90.9%.
Oh, no.
90.9%.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
So what was the amount spent on maintaining the salaries?
You're gonna find that on this sheet. And it is in the 80% bucket, about a third of the way down. And it was with fringe, 890,476. However, the calculation was 872,223, so we overspent that bucket by 18,000.
No, that's not what you were asking me.
No, I don't know where you're looking either.
She's on this page, but I think Anthony's question was, what was the amount the district spent to maintain the salaries?
To maintain the salaries.
Is that the 10.9?
That's the 10.902
No,
700.
I understand that's like what you reported to the state, but like, is there any documentation to show that the district actually spent?
So because we're not done with payroll yet, we won't have that full amount yet. It won't be, there's another report that has to go to the state in August, which wraps up the entire year of pay.
So, but that says, that's what the state told you should be paying for maintenance,
Correct.
10.9. What do you actually pay for maintenance?
$11,366,243, which is on this sheet, line B2.
Is that based on like actual data though, or is that based on some calculation you guys ran?
Well, this is the preliminary expenditure report, which would identify all of those people that would be attributed to the salary.
Dr. Green, really simple question. Is that based on actual data?
Yes, actual data.
Do you have the data to show that?
Again, it's preliminary because we are not done with payroll this year. So when you say, do we have the actual data, until that last paycheck is run on June 30th, it's not going to be final data.
So you, okay.
So at this point, that's a projection.
Correct.
Okay.
Let me just tell you what point I'm at with this. I still think there's some questions. I still think it's a bit unclear. I see the documentation now that says there's a problem. But I go back to this. What you're asking me to do is go to the group of teachers who's gone from, in 2 years, $39,226,000 for minimum pay to $46,800. Is that where we're at right now? Give them another $200 to get them to $47,000. And then our veteran teachers who had, I think it was an $840 raise and then a $45 raise. And just to be clear, so everybody understands who's listening, that's $45 not for the week, not for the month, but for the year. So the point I'm at with this is sometimes when you make a mistake, there's a price to pay. And what I'm countering this with is I want a $200 raise for 21-22, not just for these new teachers, but for all our teachers, because I cannot go and look my veteran educators in the eye and say, I got another $200 for that brand new teacher, and I didn't get you anything. So you guys made a miscalculation. You know our veteran educators have been screaming at the top of their lungs. What a morale killer, what an insult the $45 was, the $840 raise compared to the $7,000, $8,000 raise that other people received. So if we're gonna sign off on this today, I want all the teachers to get a $200 raise for an additional $200 raise for 21-22.
Okay, look at me. Do you,
And then we'll look at it too as well in the budget.
okay. The people to my right, your left, were here for the leapfrogging and the TSIA. I can certainly bring them back out for copies if you have some more questions.
I hate to do that to them because they really are great people, but yes, can you please bring them back?
Sure. So for right now, though, I can say goodbye while we talk about our other two things.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
How did you get suckers today, Jason? I'm trying to figure this out, man.
Short straw right there.
BPS will agree to your COVID request.
Excellent.
So-
I appreciate that. And I don't know if you've been following the news, not that the news is always a great source, but they're saying there may be another surge coming in the fall. So I think it's going to be much needed. We don't want folks coming to school who aren't feeling well in order to save their sick time.
So, members of the bargaining unit who are required to quarantine for COVID-19 based on local or state guidance will be eligible for up to 5 days of paid leave in school year 2022-2023. Proper documentation consistent with BPS guidelines is required.
So just one question, Dr. Green. Everybody's 5 days started fresh and all,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. I made copies of this, I'm happy to share it. In fact, I will, because I did add a couple school year things here. And I just wanted to be a little more clear related to the renewal of the certificate. And I couldn't make it all fit on the same page for you to be reading it, so I had to leave it alone with asterisks. So at the top, I had originally said just school year 22, but really it's 23 and 24 as well. You see at the top in the line. And then I took the asterisks for the adding ESC certification and adding autism endorsement, and I made those asterisks. And then I added, because I couldn't understand really what you were saying, and I'm hoping this is what you were saying. Teachers cannot remove the certification for one certification period following the initial addition to the certificate. Is that what you were saying?
I'm just trying to think, so we get the certificate added on, you know, let's say it's 2022, you're not up till 2025. They don't move it ahead, they keep it at 2025. So if I got my ESE certification added on that would finish out the certification period, and then
One
one
renewal.
more.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
I'll
that's
talk
what
to
I'm
the
saying.
team about that.
I just have a quick question on the logistics of that. So say somebody does decide, you know what, it's worth it to them, they want to get rid of it, whatever, it's a personal choice. Do they have to give that money back? Logistically, how does that,
They
does
just
that
have
work?
to, they just have to keep it through that one.
Are you
renewal.
saying if they didn't?
I'm saying they did. So I'm saying logistically, how do we come after, if that's probably not the right term, but let's say I'm the guy that decides, no, I've been put in too many awkward positions, I don't even want that on my certificate anymore, which I will tell you some people are doing that. And I go ahead and I say, no, I want it off there. So I'm basically violating this agreement, like as it stands. How do you come after that money? Like, do we start deducting from payroll? Like, I just don't want to
Good
create a
question.
whole.
Maybe we should have.
I don't want to create a whole
I don't want to be
logistical
like
nightmare.
this.
That's why I don't like it at all, to be honest with you, on you requiring an additional, like, I added the certification, I'm providing X amount of years of optional ESC coverage to the district. I don't know why I'm now incumbent upon me to do that for a whole nother cycle when only one amount of distribution was paid.
Well, we were anticipating that it would be for the life of the life of the employment would be,
Right,
yes.
right.
So I think Mr. Pucci was trying to reduce that a little bit, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, I see the movement, I appreciate the movement, I just, like, I'm ESC certified myself, and I see how some principals, I'm just gonna put out there, misuse their ESC people, and force them into places because it happens to be on their certificate. And I don't know that it's personally worth that, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know how teachers would feel about you kind of coming after them if they decided that professionally speaking, it wasn't in their best interest to continue that certification down the road. I just don't like the optics of that, and I don't even understand the logistics if I come after that money, so I'm just putting that out there. As an unintended consequence, I just don't want that to be something we're talking about 2 years later.
It's gonna be a fun week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I'm trying to save y'all some headaches down the road.
I think more than anything, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Dr. Green, but like, more of the expectation that if you sign up for this, we expect you to keep it there for this amount of time. I don't know if they have a mechanism in place. All right. So that's everything.
Right.
Now, okay, so we're gonna talk is, were you planning on discussing any of the other language items today?
I was not, she was in second, I believe that was our.
So that would be like the parental leave, the comp time,
Yes.
and the differentiated pay. Kyle, did we get our answer on the differentiated pay?
No.
The amount?
No, we're gonna have to, follow up with Dr. Green about a few things, I think.
Okay.
Before June second. Does that make sense, Dr. Green?
Yes. I'm not sure what you're asking, but yes, I'm happy to follow
Remember
up
we
with
asked
you in
about,
second.
we asked about the difference in amount on the CAPE fund and that was gonna be saved?
Oh, yes, I will have that for you. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Preferably, you know,
Dr. Green,
I don't wanna do what your boss does, but, you know, preferably 2 weeks before the meeting.
When we were talking about the coverage language, there was one area Sandy was taking notes, and I just want to make sure I understand correctly. When we were talking about school-based teachers, like Title I teachers, reading coaches, and they're called on to cover classes, what did we say that they would receive?
So if they're just covering a class in that rotation of somebody's out and they're covering a class, they're going to get the $45 for it.
So what
If they're
if, like,
being
at an-
reclassified into the position.
But what if it's like at the elementary school and it's 40 a day? Do they get the whole 270? or-
So it's my understanding that they're putting them in the rotation, that they're not just doing it for a day. They're either being reclassified, it's my understanding, they're either being reclassified into the position or they're in a rotation of covering.
Are you going to be putting guidance out?
We are.
And I mean, that's what the.
Well, when we're done with all, I mean, I don't think we've agreed.
Right.
Wholly.
Well, I mean, we did agree to that. So what I'm saying
Did we
is,
finalize that?
Did we
We
sign?
did finalize that.
Yeah.
No, we didn't, we put something back and you haven't responded, which is the school base. I think it's in your court to respond
Okay.
for that.
All right,
I don't
so-
think we finalized. We went through all your list of questions.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
Because my concern is, and I know it's happening, is, these Title I teachers, reading coaches, they're sometimes being called upon all day to cover, rather than, especially at, the elementary level, it's not just one period, so I'd like to, if what you're saying would work, that would be fantastic, because I go back to, we would have been willing to rip this proposal off if we could guarantee that teachers wouldn't have to cover anymore, but that's not realistic. But if they were being held to just one 45-minute block of time, that would work, but I think they're oftentimes in there all day. Matt, you're in the elementary.
Yeah, I would
school.
say, obviously, I know a few different teachers that talk to me across multiple campuses, elementary speaking. And yes, they're being used as like supplemental subs, and I get it. You gotta have adults in the room. So, and it is usually, it's either a half-day kind of scenario, like we'll get the reading coach to cover in the morning, we'll get the math Title one person to cover the afternoon, or it's a whole day sub situation.
Okay. I'll get you an answer.
Dr. Green, one thing, you said 5 MOAs, and we're just trying to keep track.
Premium pay?
Okay,
That's a premium case, so, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was fine.
I had a list of 4, but we combined premium pay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right,
So, comment when you want us back, and I'll bring my teacher.
I think probably 30 minutes should be good.
Was that gonna be good enough for you to be able to respond?
I don't think I have anything to respond
I
to.
think Anthony passed.
Yeah.
I think Anthony passed the comment on this one.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry, you are correct. My fault. My fault.
All right,
So
so I
you're
think
gonna be-
we'll be about 30 minutes and then I'll call you.
Yes.